Welcome to Unresolved, the podcast for customer experience leaders by customer experience leaders. In this podcast, we discuss how different companies view and measure their customer experiences, how they manage their teams, and we dive deeper into the unresolved issues that they're facing today. And we're specifically calling this podcast Unresolved because so many CX leaders are testing with AI. They're rebuilding with AI as the foundation, and every one of us have to reinvent everything we've ever known about customer experience systems and processes. You're not alone, so let's do this journey together. Today, we have Craig Stoss, the Vice President of Solutions for KODIF, an agentic CX platform built for commerce that helps support teams automate ticket resolution, surface actionable insights, and continuously optimize operations. And I had the opportunity to meet Craig in 2023 while I was speaking at the Philly Support Driven Summit. And for those that haven't been to a support driven conference, look up one near you and just go to it because you'll meet incredible, thoughtful, and selfless people like Craig, and you'll stay in touch with everyone that you meet. And I promise you that. Craig, welcome to Unresolved.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Brett. Great to be here.
Of course. So I like to start off by creating a baseline so that folks can connect with you right away. So can you tell me about your team, the team size, the structure, and what you're responsible for?
Yeah. So KODIF is a small startup. We do wear a lot of hats. So in our world, solutions encompasses pre-sales, demos, and creation of those demo environments. It includes custom integrations for signed clients. It includes the implementation team, who does the actual white glove implementation of the AI services, and it includes support and success in the sense that we support our existing customers, and my team handles the renewals, and the other conversations around general client value along the way. So team size, I mean, all of that fits within 6 people on my team,
Yeah.
and we're all remote. So I'm based near Toronto, Canada. I have members of my team in Mexico, Brazil, Kyrgyzstan, and the United States, Honduras as well.
When you think about customer experience, like what does good customer experience look like in your world, and how
Yeah.
close do you feel like you are to it?
Yeah, so, as it's funny, as an AI vendor, there's certain, I'm sure you've heard the phrase "eat your own dog food" or "drink your own
Of course.
champagne," right? And I
Yeah.
think that in the AI world, especially, there's this sense of you're telling us to use AI, you're telling us the advantages of AI. Show us, like, how do you use AI, right? I think that's a really critical question. And so, and just like when you have, for example, a model home, if you're building a new group of housing, or if you're going for to a wedding venue, they sample the foods and the cakes that you're gonna have on your wedding day. Like, that's going to be the highest quality presentation, right? Because that's what they're trying to sell you on. They're not going to show you a house that doesn't have all the upgrades and the fancy bits that you could have, for example. And I think that's true in our world, right? Is that if we're going to put out AI out there, it needs to be at the highest quality, and executing on all levels. And so for me, good customer experience has two components. One is always how people care about delivering that service, and making sure that the customers have access to that service when they need it, whether it be, in a different time zone, or during a critical situation. And then the second piece is, and it's specific to the AI world, is I think using AI to your advantage, and being able to use, not only the AI technology that we sell, but I think it's using AI in general. I mean, we've had, for example, when someone leaves the company, we've had customers say, "Oh, can you maybe use AI to scan their emails so that you can catch up to speed on how this project is going," for example. And yeah, I think that's the expectation, is that if we're purporting this technology it has an ROI, we should be using it. So how close are we to it? Not as close as I would like to be. I think there's a lot of cool projects. I think it's time and people, but we are moving in the right direction. We've just launched a really cool report that is auto generated every week using AI and delivered to our customers for their success and be able to measure how their implementation is trending. We use AI to do debugging whenever there is a problem or something that doesn't look right inside a conversation. The customers can actually hit an emoji in Slack and will actually auto debug. So we're getting there slowly. I think there's a ways to go to be fully operational in that high end customer experience I'd like to deliver.
Yeah. Customers actually want more human experience whenever it comes to support versus leveraging AI as much. And so I was curious, whenever you're thinking about the future state, would it be ideal that CODIF, the AI agent, on your site and also inside the platform itself would be able to handle 90% of conversations and solutions and actions for customers?
The preface of your question is really interesting, right? Because I do think there is an element of customers do want the human experience. I also would argue that part of it is they just want solutions fast. And so where I draw the connection between, wanting a human experience and can AI solve 90% of the use cases is is that AI experience as good or as fast or as convenient as it is with a human? And that to me is the measuring stick. So should it
Yeah,
solve 90%? I mean, in our world, our stuff has, a lot of nuance depending on what integrations you have and
sure.
and other things. But we could probably get somewhere into that range.
Cool.
And could that be provided faster and more conveniently and as empathetically, et cetera, as a human? Again, we probably could get close to that. A year from now, if we were able to solve anywhere north of 70%, I would say would be a success.
Before we dive too deep, can you share what your tech stack is that your team uses day to day?
Yeah. So, I mean, Codif again, small company. We do have HubSpot. We are a Google Suite company, so we do spend a lot of time in Google Sheets and those types of tools. VS Code and Claude. I do make use of Gemini. I think Gemini has some really interesting features when it comes to being able to, for example, access websites to be able to pull out things that help us customize demos and make demos more personalized to our prospects. The main tools that my team use beyond the scripts that we've used AI to write um, to do some of these debugging and reporting are just database tools. Postman for APIs, DB Beaver, which is a Postgres tool, um, and things like that that allow us to access our backends and be able to help debug common problems.
Gotcha. Great. Thanks for that tech stack. So now I want to kind of move into like AI reporting metrics. And you have such a great history and a story here that I want to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly with AI. So my first question is like, where has AI actually helped your team?
I mean, first and foremost, I think the AI debugger I mentioned a couple times is been absolutely fundamental to how
It's
my team
awesome.
operates. We built a tool, and as I mentioned, it's built into Slack where we and or our customers simply have to add an emoji to a comment that has a conversation ID, which is our unique identifier for every conversation, as well as the problem that was experienced, and it will go and do all this debugging for you, and it will present you a report of what happened in the conversation, how we understood the concern, and then how we think it should be fixed. And this has cut hours a day off of my team's technical analysis. So that's by far the tool that's probably helped us the most. And that is a combination of Python, connecting to Claude, connecting to our database, and munging the data in token efficient ways, etc. um and it's been a great tool, all vibe coded, like all coded through a VS code like tool.
Yeah.
But then we do a lot of report generation, and we do a lot of our metrics. For example, we have a custom report engine which we know sometimes when these reports are built, the queries may not be as efficient as they could be. um, and so we actually have an AI tool that will export all those queries, run them through a prompt that does SQL checking for efficiencies or way to improve the performance of it. And we've seen some massive improvements there where a custom report that was created that used to take 5 minutes to load got down to 3-4 seconds because
Mm.
of just different efficiencies that were found or inefficiencies that were found in the SQL statements run. So that's a big win for our customers, obviously, and so, but we do a lot of this. There's a lot of little things that we do internally, and AI is encouraged. For example, formatting data is a big one. Customers will send us data to index for the AI agent knowledge that we want to put into a certain format to make it better for the AI to learn. AI is great at that. LLMs are wonderful. Say, hey, here's a file in this format. I want you to make it in this format. Here's an example, and
Yeah.
it's instantaneous. So yeah, lots of things like that.
Yeah, that's great, man. I I can't imagine what my life would have been like 15 years ago with AI because one of my jobs as a customer success manager was I was taking a spreadsheet of store products, and we're talking. Think about shoes. You have different sizes, you have different colors of the same shoe, different quantities of the same shoe, and not only getting it listed on eBay, Amazon, Facebook Marketplace, their own website, different venues, we had to make sure that there was a mapping between all of it, and it was all manual. So I
Yeah.
stared at spreadsheet after spreadsheet. I'm just thinking, I wouldn't have to do any of that now.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing that one client would have taken me a couple of days to do. Now it would just take seconds just to say, here's the mappings, go to it. And it's just wild how different jobs are kind of going away. And I think it's in a good reason because humans shouldn't be doing this kind of a task.
Yeah.
And yet that's where we were back then. And I feel like we're in this era of we can finally let go of these tasks that we shouldn't be wasting our time on anyway. We were given a brain. God gave us a brain for a reason, and not to do the mundane tasks that over and over. So now we can be creative. We can continually be creative and let the AI just kind of take over those kinds of things. And I'm
Yeah.
very happy about that.
Yeah. I think the new skill is going to be, or the skill that's going to become in demand for many jobs, not all jobs,
Yeah,
is and again, I do not believe that AI is going to take our jobs. I
agreed.
don't think that
Agreed.
that kind of it's been every technological advancement has had that worry, right? The internet was going to take everyone's job at one point within the 90s when I first kind of started getting into it. But
Right.
um the so I think what you're going to see as a skill set is this idea of being very good at validating that the inputs are correct and the prompts are precise and clear and succinct, for token usage, etc. And in the case of things like Claude, the skills are accurate, the skills are defined, they're repeatable, etc. Like that's the inputs. And then the expertise to validate the output, knowing the nuances of how to format a JSON file or knowing how to convert an array of data into something, those middle bits of that, as you said, you would have to do as part of your work manually to correlate, SKUs and such. That bit we don't need to worry about so much anymore. It's the, did I tell it to do the right thing, and did the thing actually happen, and can I how do I validate it? I was
Right.
my son's into, he's 7 years old and he's into Scratch, the kind of the graphical coding interface where you can like,
Oh,
yeah,
I
it's
haven't had a chance to see that one yet. That's
yeah,
interesting.
it's really cool. It's a free little app you can download, and he was playing with it. And then one night we were in the car and he was talking about this game he wanted to build, and I thought, oh, you know what? Why don't we boot up Cursor and we'll play with it a bit. And so we built this game where it's kind of like a snake game where the snake moves around and you can eat apples, and there was different things. He wanted to add different colors, and it was a lot of fun. But at one point he said, I want each color snake to have a superpower. And I said, well, what should this color be? What should green superpower be? And he says, well, I want it to move faster than the other snakes. It actually made me kind of think about how I work with AI, because you can't just say to an AI, I want the green snake to move faster. Like that doesn't, the AI would know what that meant, but what is faster? Is faster 200% faster?
Right.
Is it 0.1% faster? What? And so this is where I actually had a really interesting conversation with my kid about, speaking accurately. And when you're talking to, because I think that's a skill. That's going to be a
Yeah.
skill that his generation will require, is to be able to really speak and use clear language. And English is horrible for that, as we both know. But for an AI, at least now, at least current AI technologies, you're going to really have to have that precision, because you can't just say make the green snake move faster.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's just forcing us to use our brain more and
Yeah.
to be very clear and concise. And on top of that, I feel like that even as managers, how can we be clear for our direct reports as well? Because so many years, so many decades, people haven't been very clear, and direct reports don't know how they would potentially move up. How can they get that promotion? How can they move into a managerial role? And now it's requiring it more. If you can be clear and concise with AI and directions there, you can obviously be more clear and concise with what the trajectory of somebody's role is. I want to switch over to metrics. I know that you're consistently thinking about value. If you're tracking the right data, if you're uncovering the customer experience story for your customers, or if you're providing your customers with dashboards showing that KODIF brings the company value. So thinking at a high level, can you share with me what's on your plate regarding metrics and reporting right now?
Metrics in the AI era are really interesting to me, right? And as you mentioned, I've been a proponent of this idea of value-based metrics versus service-based metrics. One of my examples I always go through is average handle time supposed to be high or low, right? And most people might say, well, low. We want to solve things fast. But if you work for certain types of companies, you work with elderly care, or work with demographics that might have uh, mental disabilities, fast is not going to work, right? And so I think we need to re-examine the value you're providing versus, in this case, speed, is my example. Um, so I have two things that I always say when people ask me about this. The first is, um, AI agents need to be treated as agents. You need to be transparent with what their goals are, what are they supposed to achieve. And yes, maybe their metrics are different than your human agents, but there's at least similar metrics. Like, for example, if your human agents can handle 50 tickets a day, can AI handle 200? I don't know, but there has to be a number there where you can start to say, like, here's my goals, here's what an ROI looks like for my AI agent. And of course, that includes the coaching. If your human agents made a mistake, or didn't know something, or there was a new product or feature that's released that you need to train them on, that's true with the AI agent. And so, you when it comes to metrics internally, you need to measure those humans and AI in some alike fashion, so that you're able to make really meaningful insights into, is AI performing what I would expect? Am I getting the value out of it? Are my human agents working on the things that I want them to, that maybe require more empathy, etc. And then the second thing that I always talk about is, AI has fundamentally different ways to tick off your customers, to annoy your customers, right? Rarely, would a human agent would ask a customer to repeat themselves, or go into a loop of, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. Use different words. That's not how humans write. But there are many AI solutions that could get into that loop. And so when it comes to that kind of customer experience, there are things that you need to measure from a metric standpoint in the AI world that you probably it wouldn't make any sense to measure in the human world. And I call this, just as a name, I call it the customer frustration index, right? Is the customer saying, you're not listening to me, you don't understand me? Is the AI asking them to repeat information that they've already given? Is the agent going into a loop saying, I don't understand? Did the AI send the same question twice, or send contradicting information? All of those things should be measured, and because that will help you improve the training of your AI agent, the automations that you're running, and the prompts that you're using for your AI agent. I think if you measure both those things, you're going to have a much clearer vision into your entirety of your CX offering. And I also, the one advantage that I also see is that it's going to help your human agents understand the role of AI. It's going to reduce the anxiety of, oh, this thing's here to take my job. And you can say, no, like, look at, fundamentally, it's working on different things than you are. This is not about taking your job. This is about augmenting our services because we don't have support agents to speak Italian, or we don't
Right.
have support agents working at 3 a.m. Pacific time. It's to show that there's a fundamental difference between human role and the AI agent role, but together you're a team achieving the same outcome.
Yeah. I love the perspective of that because so many people are just maybe they're thinking it's you got to measure humans and AI separate, but at the end of the day, there's some things to measure separate. But for the most part, you want to make sure that it's about the customer experience. It's not about AI versus human. It's literally about how do we provide the adequate customer experience, the experience that our customers, very specifically, like you said, that our customers require in order to find value in the product.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day, that's exactly what customers want. Is I just want to be able to log in, feel the value, and measure that value, and then move on with the rest of my day. Not focus so much on the product, but like literally, it's just one step of their day, not taking up their entire day trying to figure out the solutions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that you do that through a combination of services, right? We have customers that come to us and say their number one use case is some people submitting warranty requests. And it's just a repetitive thing. Fill in this form. Have you registered your warranty? What's the damage? Can you upload a picture? you know, Humans could do that. There's no reason why a human can't do that. But if
Sure.
it's 3 in the morning, uh, you know, and humans are all sleeping, AI can do that just as readily, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's all about that service level that you want to provide. And many products offer you scheduling, like maybe you turn off the AI for certain periods of time, you turn it on for other periods, whatever it might be. I think that it's one of those things that you decide the service level you want, and then obviously, as we just said, measuring it is really important to make sure that it's achieving the goals on both sides of your team.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe humans were made for more. We were measured that humans were only using 10% of their brain. What are we using now? I feel like there is an uptick that we have to be using more, or we still have an untapped amount that we still could tap into based on the way that we think, the way that we structure our goals, the way that we structure just everything that we're working on. I feel like we're definitely made for more.
I I mean, we could probably go into a different type of podcast and talk about how the brain functions and psychology and things. Last week, I was traveling and I had to pay for parking, and something went wrong with the parking app, and I talked to a human agent through chat, and the experience was fine. I there was nothing wrong with the service I got. The person that helped me was kind. They were definitely using macros. You could tell they were also had multiple conversations going on because every response was, slightly delayed. As a sport leader, I recognize that, right? I'm sure
Yeah.
you would too. Um, and I thought about it afterwards that, AI could have handled that, and would it have been handled better or worse? And then when it comes to expectations, this is the one that gets me all the time is my measurement of how I want AI to serve me against the human equivalent of that service. Like it was a 30-minute, 35-minute chat I had with this agent. I think
Wow.
AI probably could have done it in minutes or seconds. Because all it was uploading a receipt that had the wrong data in it and correcting something in their backing system. Um, but am I measuring it? Am I measuring the potential AI against the potential human, or am I measuring the AI against my expectations? And that was an interesting realization for me because I would have expected, from my generation to be comparing it against humans. Oh, this is too slow. Human is slower than an AI could solve this, or to an integration platform could solve this. But that's not what I think we're seeing right now. We're seeing a generation who is so used to instantaneous, customized, personalized responses that the expectation has become that level. And that's fine if that's who you sell to. If you sell to a generation, if you're selling the trendy shoes or clothing of the time, you want your experience to meet those expectations.
Yeah.
And um I found that very fascinating when I was thinking about who am I comparing this 35-minute largely positive experience to. Um, eh, and um, and I think it would be a different answer depending on who you ask.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So every company wants to measure things differently. I remember working with Intercom and back in 2015, 2016, just pestering them saying, I need different reporting. I need different data. And they would just say, use the API, export it, get it over into Looker. And because we're not going to build that reporting dashboard for you. And so many other companies were like that. I'm just picking on Intercom because that's where I was at the time. And so, but I mean, I feel like data is probably the most difficult aspect to get close to right. And you mentioned that when there's no clear narrative around metrics, customers start building their own reports. So, how do you think about AI's role in owning that story before someone else does?
Yeah. I mean, it's a problem, and I think it's a problem. It's an unsolved problem across the industry. What does resolution mean, right? If you really think about what is an AI resolution, and how do you measure that, right? I mean, if I ask, I mean, forget about support, forget about e-commerce. You go to GPT and ask it a question, whatever that question is, and I get an answer back, and then I leave GPT. OpenAI doesn't really know that that was resolved. They know that I asked a question and they gave an answer to me, but there's no indication that that answer was necessarily correct, that
Right.
I didn't turn around and send an email to someone else, like "Hey, Brett, I just asked GPT this question." It's one of those things that resolution is actually a hard thing to measure. Um, and now that's the simple case. Now think about the complex case, maybe a refund or a warranty claim, right? And you go through some troubleshooting steps before you agree. Let's say you're a physical product that you're troubleshooting and you get halfway through and the person stops responding. Was that because that step fixed whatever the problem was? And it's like, oh, I don't need a warranty. I fixed it. Or is that because they got frustrated and left? Um, is that should that be a resolution? Right.
Right.
And that's the customer phase. That's like our customers, how they think about it. But think about it then from the vendor standpoint. We still did something here, right? So if we're a vendor, and this is an industry problem, we still used our AI models. We still used our integration platforms to take the conversation that far. So from our perspective, we incurred a cost even though potentially the thing wasn't resolved. And so how do you charge for that? How do you talk about that? How do you explain the nuances? Um, and then the final case before I go back to fully answering your question is what about a situation where the AI determines based on the workflow that you've trained it that, hey, this situation is something I cannot handle. I need a human to help me here. Well, same thing. Is that resolved or is that contained or
Yeah.
because the AI made the determination, you trained it to hand off to a human. It's not like the customer got frustrated and said, "I want to speak to a person now." You trained the LLM to look at that and say, "Oh no, this has to go to a human." I'm making that determination.
Right.
So the problem is because of that nuance. Obviously, any vendor has to make some decisions on what's their point of view on how this stuff should be measured. And you could criticize or praise any given metric from any given vendor in the space, but customers will do one of two things. If there's no narrative or the narrative doesn't agree with what they want, they will generate their own narrative. And the problem that incurs is now they're kind of telling an internal story to their stakeholders that's different from the story that you believe your platform was meant to tell.
Mm.
And that can lead to all sorts of problems. Like, for example, misunderstanding the solutions the software is providing, or confusion in terms. Like if it says X over here and there's the same term over here, but those numbers are different. Well, how do you consolidate that? And it hurts things like renewals. It hurts things like if you're having a QBR, you're not speaking the same language anymore. So how do you control it? I mean, I think the best way for most vendors to control it is to have a very clear point of view, documented metrics, um, that
Yeah.
are easily filterable, easy manipulatable to whatever the customer's specific requirements are, but that the story, at least as you tell it, is very consistent. It's consistent across the product. So
Yeah.
if you're searching in one place for a certain metric, CSAT metric or resolution metric or whatever it is, this place handles it the same place as the other place. And then if a customer does want to go their own route, understanding why they feel your metrics aren't telling the story they need. Is there a way that they can filter your metrics to get to what they need? Natural language is a real hard problem, and human behavior is an even harder problem. And so,
Sure.
and we're trying to measure both with these technologies. So it's a tough problem to solve.
In my mind, when I'm thinking about measuring AI, I think about like deflection. I know deflection and resolution used to be the same terms, but I've also started to hear that deflection is more of a negative term in terms of you deterred the customer from wanting to use that solution, and you required a human solution after that. And then maybe there's another definition for it, but from other conversations I've had, they started using the word deflected and needing to pick it back up with humans. And then assisted. So this is one that's not measured that folks. It's hard to even identify, but if you think about a tier one support person and they have the informational responses, and it at least deterred the customer from needing to like talk to a human for at least 5 minutes. So the assisted portion was a 5 minute solution before needing actionable steps that weren't already implemented into
Mhm.
the AI agent needing to go over to a human. So at least the assisted portion would be 5 minutes worth. And then you could start to calculate based on how much time was spent on providing that
Yeah,
information prior to being escalated. But it wasn't a total loss. At least they didn't need to reiterate the things that they said.
yeah,
And then another piece of it is I've seen AI agents where it's like half of a paragraph essentially, and then here's a link to an article that nobody clicks, and that seems to be what so many products are pushing, or even people are not paying attention to. That customers don't want that prior to AI being so integrated into support, I was leveraging intercom and the routing workflows, and it was pretty much like you couldn't click more than 3 times. I did not want that. I didn't want somebody to be like, "How many times do I have to click these options before
yeah,
I get to a human?" But really, it was no more than 3 times. And again, this is archaic, but think about it this way: by allowing them to select where their issue was and then providing maybe 2 paragraphs worth or even like a video, an inline video before it even made it to a human, we were able to deflect over 60% without leveraging AI at that time.
yeah,
And then now you don't need a decision tree. You can go based on what it is that they're asking for. However, to this point, it's much more difficult to provide the right clear context written by a human. And then, even so, an inline video that shows exactly the solution for what they were looking for. Are we almost there? I feel like we're almost there, but we would need to provide the right context around here's why you would show this video,
yeah.
and here's the bank of videos that you would use it for. But yeah, so that's kind of my take on measuring and even like how we're kind of moving along with AI in chat. But at the end of the day, the question will end up being like, did we really frustrate them and they didn't get any value whatsoever? Did we assist them and then we actually did give them value, but it's not complete? And then did we resolve the situation
Yeah.
incomplete and it never had to make it to a human?
I I love the term assist actually. That's a term I haven't thought about in the terms of metrics, but that's exactly what's happening, right? Is you mentioned the intercom routing system, right? And so like that's a form of assistance. Now the difference is in the AI world, that form of assistant costs money, whereas in the in the intercom world, it was a feature of just basically a bunch of boolean. Does it meet this criteria X Y
Right.
and Z? And so now that decision costs money because it costs tokens, et cetera. And so there's a charging model that needs to accommodate for that assistance, even though that might not lead to a deflection or a resolution. And I don't pretend to know the right answer there. I go back to value, right? I think that the discussion on how many conversations you remove, how many resolutions you make is obviously valuable and something you need to measure. Don't get me wrong, but it's more about the value it brings to your business, right? And that value sadly could be in savings of headcount, right? I mean, that we should be honest about that, but it could be in other things. Like what's the opportunity cost of someone spending 5 to 10 minutes filling in a warranty form that AI can do automatically just by asking you your email and picking out all your various user information and putting it all together, right?
Yeah.
There's an opportunity cost there. And so to me, part of the metrics is, yeah, resolution's important because you need to make sure that the system you bought is working. But what about the overall capabilities that you're increasing in within your team? Are you better at customer success? Do your agents have more time to work with the serious scenarios that require their attention? Are they less burnt out because they don't have to handle 3 chats, 4 chats simultaneously? They only have to handle the one that gets escalated.
Yeah.
Um, are your international customers happier because your AI agent can speak 100 and some odd language instantaneously? Um, those are the things that you should be also including in those metrics beyond that hard, 75, 80% resolution rate. Um, yeah, great point. I love the term assistance. I really do. I love that assist metric. We need to think more about that.
Craig, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. And I love that you're pushing the boundaries on reporting and metrics. And we're thinking about resolution and how to measure it and how to actually understand the way that we meld human effort and the way that we put together AI effort and how we start to measure things in the right way.
Yeah.
You can connect with Craig on LinkedIn, and that link is down in the description. And that wraps up today's episode. Subscribe to hear more incredible stories in this era of Unresolved. Have a great day and a productive week.